Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to this WWEA webinar. I welcome you all to this session. We have an excellent panel of speakers here. Before we start, let me give you some logistics information. This webinar is a public event, so it is in principle accessible for everyone. We also do a live broadcast on our YouTube channel, so everybody there can watch as well. We have also usually some additional participants there. Recordings of the webinar will also be made available after the webinar is over. So please bear that in mind, and whatever you say, bear in mind that, again, this is public. If some of the speakers do not want their presentation to be published after that, then please let us know. Yeah, with this, let me say also welcome to our speakers, in particular to our partners. The webinar is taking place here in conjunction with Hamburg Wind Energy Fair, one of the world's largest wind energy events, which takes place this year because of the pandemic situation as a virtual event. Also special greetings to our media partner Energy Update from Pakistan and our webinar partner Profig Ventus. We're all very happy to have you here on board. With this, I would like to hand over to the president of the World Wind Energy Association, Peter Ray. Peter, to officially open the webinar. Peter.
Thank you very much, Stefan, and a very warm welcome to all of those who are joining in this World Wind Energy Association webinar. It's part of a series of webinars which the organisation has developed as a result of the tragic pandemic which is taking place and making so much of the world's activities difficult. But I believe that the webinars which we've been able to hold have been a development which has been valuable to all of those who've participated. Our subject for this webinar is, of course, wind power in Pakistan. And the government of Pakistan has made commitments to achieve percentages of the total electricity generation. It has targets, and they'll no doubt be discussed in some detail during the webinar today. The commitments mean that there will be, as in so many other countries around the world now, the site of renewable energy development, whether it be in solar energy, whether it be in hydro energy, whether it be in any of the forms, but in particular, the wind energy will be developing at a very rapid rate if the targets are to be achieved. The world is certainly rapidly changing. 20 years ago, it was unlikely that you would see many wind farms as you traveled about a country. Today, you can see them in so many parts of the world that it's now become the norm rather than the abnormal situation. And it's very encouraging to know that Pakistan has made the commitments which the President Arif Alvi made on behalf of the government of Pakistan last year at a conference at a meeting that we held in Islamabad. And that commitment gave me, and I'm sure everybody else, a great deal of encouragement to see what we can do to help in any way the development and the achievement of those targets. The World Wind Energy Association has strengthened its activities in Pakistan in recent years. There has been work going on in Pakistan by work on behalf of the country and on behalf of the WWEA for perhaps 10 years or more. But in recent years, it has strengthened, and we have now the good fortune of a branch in Pakistan, as well as a great deal more interest. The rollover to renewables is something which I believe is now inexorable. It's taking place. It's taking place at a rate which cannot be regarded as anything other than a stream of activity which is increasing all the time. And so today we can have it's tonight for me, and so I'm sorry if I'm mentioning tonight when most of the others will be in the daytime, but a slip of the tongue. The major things which need to be discussed are things such as how to plan the grid, how to plan the development, how to plan the backup for the renewables which are intermittent, and wind and solar certainly are, and they will need backup, whether it be from some form of gas, some form which I don't think many of us would encourage, but through to such things as hydrogen and hydro and various others which can be allied with the wind energy to and solar to be able to ensure a 100% delivery of power. So with those few thoughts as we start, I'm looking forward to hearing the specialists, the speakers today, putting forward the various aspects of the discussion of world wind energy activity and the resulting activity in Pakistan. And thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Back to you, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this welcome. Let me also add that our Vice President, Dr. Irfan Mirza, he also sends his regards, and yeah, he is unfortunately not well, and his health doesn't allow him to join us here today, although he would like to be here. And with this, I would like to come to our first speaker, our honorary guest. Again, here, unfortunately, we have some health problems that we face with. We were informed just recently this morning that the ambassador personally has some health problems, but I have the great pleasure that we have the embassy of Pakistan to Germany represented by First Secretary Mubashir Tahir. It's a great pleasure, and I assume a great welcome to Berlin. And I'd like to hand over to you and request you to present your speech.
Thank you very much. My name is Mubashir Ahmad Tahir. I am First Secretary Political in Embassy of Pakistan, Berlin. Ambassador Mohammad Faisal was looking forward to speak at the forum, but due to the health reason, as he was not feeling well, he could not attend the office today. Today morning, he instructed me to attend the forum on his behalf. First of all, on the behalf of Ambassador Faisal, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Stefan, Secretary General, and the World Wind Energy Association for providing this opportunity to speak at this August forum. Pakistan is a country with more than 200 million population, where electricity demand is also increasing. The power generation capacity of Pakistan is about to 22,800 with a shortfall of 9,000 megawatt. Pakistan is a country with massive potential of clean and green renewable source of energy, wind energy, from which wind energy holds a significant position. Of course, experts would tell better, and we are here to listen to the experts about it. But I would like to maybe mention a little bit about the government policy, which the government announced, the Alternative and Renewable Energy Policy 2020, that offers generous tax facilities to investors and promises induction of power plants on open competitive bidding. Government of Pakistan's policy for development of renewable energy for power generation offers the incentives for setting up wind IPPs. Some facilities I can mention, maybe wind risk of variability of wind speed. Government of Pakistan guarantees electricity purchase, protection against political risks. There are so many attractive tariffs which are offered by the government of Pakistan. Government also offers euro-dollar parity. Carbon credits are available. No import duties on equipment. At the end, I would like to say that it's very important to mention that Pakistan offers tremendous opportunities and facilities for those who want to invest in wind power sector in different forms. Embassy of Pakistan in Berlin is ready to offer the assistance, can assist potential investors to connect them to the relevant departments in Pakistan. So I'm on the, at the end, I'm on the behalf of the ambassador. So ambassador would really like to participate and speak in the next forum, next sessions of the forum, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tahir, and we're very pleased to have you, the embassy, on board. Already 2 years ago, we had a similar event, then actually on site in Hamburg with the predecessor of ambassador today. I think this is a very fruitful collaboration that we have here, and I'm sure that the attendants here appreciate your words and understand that you welcome companies entering or trying to enter the Pakistani wind energy market.
Thank you.
Now, I have the pleasure to invite our second guest of honor. Great pleasure to have here Mr. Tausif Farooqi, who chairs one of the key government agencies in Pakistan's power sector, NEPRA, the National Electric Power Regulatory Authority. Mr. Farooqi, you have a more than 20 years background in the power sector, on the private sector side as well. You have also international background. You worked abroad, outside of Pakistan as well as inside Pakistan. So you know very well the sector, and you have now this key position, and we look forward to your keynote speech now in our webinar. Mr. Farooqi.
Thank you very much, Stephen. First of all, Stephen and Peter and all the organizers, thank you very much for inviting me. May I know how much time do I have?
You have, I know that you are a bit limited in your time, but you can speak now your 10 to 15 minutes.
Can I share the screen? I have a presentation ready here. If you guys allow me, I would like to walk you through my presentation.
Yes, we made you already co-host. Yes, now it works. If you can, you want to switch to presentation mode, then we have it now. Yeah, but now we have the.
Can you see my presentation now?
We see now probably what you see. We see the next slide as well, but I think it's visible.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to talk about wind power development in Pakistan. Let me first walk you through what NEPRA is. Basically, we are the regulator, and we are a link between different important organizations in Pakistan in the power industry. First being the Ministry of Energy, who is the responsible for creating a policy in power sector. Then we have the system operator and planner, NTDC. Then we have got CPPAG, who is market operator as well as responsible for the settlement. Then we have two organizations called PPIB and AEDB. PPIB is responsible for capacity addition for the conventional power, whereas AEDB is responsible for the renewable energy addition in the country. And we have old WAPDA, which is primarily taking care of the hydro projects now. And we also have the nuclear projects, plus we have taken many other initiatives whereby you might know that Pakistan is very advanced in as far as IPP industry is concerned. We had our first IPP back in 1994, and we have close to 100 IPPs operating in Pakistan. Our NEPRA's role is very simple and as well as very complicated. We are supposed to keep a balance between the investment coming in the country and we are also the custodian of the consumer's interest. And the typical electricity trilemma, we are responsible for that, thereby meaning that we have to ensure the affordable, reliable, and sustainable electricity coming to Pakistan. Why NEPRA's role is so critical? Because if we would like to uplift the country, we have to fix the economy. And in order to kickstart the economy, we have to fix the industry, or we have to give a lot of incentive to the industry. And one of the key inputs for the industry is energy costs. So when I took over as chairman NEPRA last year, because before that I was in Abu Dhabi for 20 years, my biggest challenge is to bring down the electricity prices in Pakistan. And I feel there are only two ways of doing that. One is to fix the existing infrastructure in Pakistan. And the second thing is to induct the cheapest electron possible in the system, which we all know there's no brainer that RE projects everywhere all over the world are considered to be the cheapest projects, even though we have to take care of the intermittency and the other ancillary issues with that. But still, considering all that, it is still the cheapest solution available. So we have set ourselves some target. Basically, it's the GOP, or the government of Pakistan, as Peter said, that President of Pakistan announced it last year. We wish to take Pakistan's current 3% renewable to almost 22%, which is going to be wind 12% and solar 9% and bagasse almost 1% over next 10 years. So it's a substantial increase from 3% to 22%. And one more initiative that I have taken recently as chairman NEPRA is that I've written to the government to consider hydro as also part of the RE projects. That is going to give us an immediate boost in our RE, because if we go with the current plan, we'll be able to increase RE from 3% to 22%. But if somehow we'll be able to club hydro in that, then by 2030, we'll jack up our RE presence from 22% to 52%. And one substantial thing that you will notice that right now we are using 60% of thermal, which substantially we are going to reduce over a period of next 10 years, right from 60% down to almost 36%. So again, almost bringing it down to half. So this is what our target is, and how we are going to achieve. Prime Minister of Pakistan has already announced his targets of taking RE to 20% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. That's what the minimum goal is. And we are targeting the commercial power generation and microgrids, as well as mature technologies like wind and solar and bagasse. We are also planning to experiment with the other technologies which are not tested in Pakistan, like geothermal, wind to energy, waste to energy, and wave, tidal, ocean, hydro, storage, etc. So all these things we are planning to try to sort of beef up our supplies on the RE side. This has been Pakistan's evolution on the regulatory regime for the last 23 years. NEPRA was formulated in 1997, and then first thing we did in the year 2000 was to bring out our tariff and licenses regime. Then we introduced fees, fines, and dispute resolution mechanism by 2033. In another 3 years' time, we brought distribution transmission codes. Then we worked on tariffs and started giving licenses. And we also experimented with the comparative bidding, which didn't turn out to be a very successful model at that time. And I would seriously question challenge the implementation side of it, because in Abu Dhabi I experienced comparative bidding to be the most successful way of adding capacity. Anyhow, we further kept on improving on comparative bidding, and now in 2020 policy that First Secretary just mentioned, we have decided that future RE projects will be based on comparative trading only, and we at NEPRA right now are finalizing the main RFP, because you will appreciate that few projects, they are called category 3 projects, which are 103 projects. Government has decided to bring them under comparative bidding regime. So we are developing an RFP for that. And in first go, which we are expecting from between first to second quarter next year, we are going to have this comparative bidding thing initiated. And before the end of next year, we are expecting to have a comparative bidding done by all those projects. And we are also working on comparative trade bilateral contracts market. So we are trying to change or bring about a paradigm shift in the way Pakistan has been operating as far as power industry is concerned. And from single buyer model, now we are coming up with a multi-buyer market. And NAPRA has very recently, about 2 weeks back, given a monumental decision whereby we have approved this model. And now we have given 18 months from the approval time for the implementation of this program. And you will also appreciate that NAPRA is now working on IGCEP, which is Integrated Generation Capacity Expansion Plan. First time in the history of Pakistan, we are trying to enhance, or let's say do a capacity building in a scientific manner, whereby through IGCEP we are going to keep our demand and supply sort of balance. And this plan is until 2047. 2047 is a monumental, is a very important milestone for us, because Pakistan will achieve 100 years of its existence in 2047. So they have actually brought, NTDC has brought this next 27 years model for us, which is a combination of all various technologies, including RE, hydro, gas, local coal, and LNG based project, but our focus is generally on RE. So these are the four evolution processes that we have gone through in NAPRA. First, we came up with the incentive-based policy to create traction for the investors. Then we did a hand-holding for the reasonable sized wind and solar projects. And then we tried to remove whatever barriers were there to project for the project implementation. And then we put greater emphasis on competition-based sustainable distributed RE market, which we are in the process of implementing now. In a way, we are super excited because you would have probably all seen our flag, which is green and white. And I think generally in business terms, there's a terminology called early entrant advantage. We are very lucky that we are entering very late in this business, because we have brought down, the industry has sort of crashed and the prices are way comparative now. So in a way, there is a late entry advantage for Pakistan into the RE regime. So this is the tariff regime that we have been giving, and you will probably notice that from cost plus we continued and we improved it on to cost plus upfront, and then we went on to upfront, because at that point in time in 2013 we had acute shortage of power in Pakistan, which is much relaxed now, because now we have more comparatively more electricity than what we need. We have a nameplate capacity of 36,000 megawatts, and last year we used only around 24,000 megawatts. So we have some cushion available, and we are now trying to sort of bolster this supply by giving incentive package to our consumers. Very recently, government has given a industrial package whereby to the large consumer, industrial consumer, we have given a 25% discount, and for the SMEs we have given a 50% discount over the units they are going to consume over and above last year's consumption. This is just to make sure that from single shift they go on to enhance their production by going into the second shift or even third shift. Another important milestone we achieved, we offered a straight package to them, a straight tariff, because earlier it was time of use tariff that was given to them. So it was a peak and off peak rate, but we have abolished the peak rate for the industry. And instead of taking an average, we are now giving them for 24 hours on off peak rate. It's a huge incentive for them. So you will see that right from 2011, when we had the first wind project, where the tariff was 14.66 cents per kilowatt hour, we have lately given the latest tariff at 3.2 cents per kilowatt hour. So we are having a very accomplished journey as far as tariff reduction is concerned. And we are super excited, as I said, because the time is right that we jack up renewable energy projects by inducting more and more wind and solar projects at a very affordable price of around 3 cents per kilowatt hour. At the moment, as we speak, we have almost 1,233 megawatts of installed capacity on wind projects. There are 24 wind projects which are operating in Pakistan right now. And as I said, if we are going to add 20,000 more megawatts in next 10 years, we are expecting half of it will be almost half, if not more, will be wind energy. So 12 projects are right now, as we speak, are under construction, which is equal to almost 610 megawatts in a size of almost 36,000 megawatt installed capacity. Again, these are not huge numbers, but as Chinese say, even 1,000 miles journey from a single step. So I think we have taken some very good steps. What are the challenges we are facing and what are the solutions? I won't actually call it impediments, but these are more like practical problems that we are facing and that we have to overcome to be able to sort of go ahead with adding more RE projects. The first one is that right now we have surplus power. As I said, our nameplate capacity is 36,000 against our demand of 24,000 megawatts. But as you all know that Pakistan is growing, and Pakistan has a few things which are very, very promising, like our demographics. More than 70% of our population is under 29 years of age, and almost 35% of our population is less than 15 years of age. So in Pakistan, we have a very, very young population, and that is going to grow. And our fertility rate is second to none in the world. And so we are expecting more and more population in the days to come. Plus one right now, which is not a very positive number to throw, but eventually this number shows that skies are the limits for us, because in Pakistan right now, our per capita consumption of electricity is only 450 kilowatt hours per person. But in like compared to like our neighboring countries, it is close to 1 megawatt. And if I compare it with the European average, which is around 5,005 kilowatt hours or 5.5 megawatt hours per year per capita consumption, you know. So comparing to the Europe, we have, you know, a long way to go, but there's a huge potential for us. So how can we take care of that? We are now retiring all the obsolescent plants which are owned by the government. Very recently, we have taken a decision of retire 4,000 megawatts of old technology-based, very expensive, low-efficiency plants. So a few we are retiring 2,000 megawatts very soon, within this year probably, and next 2,000 will be done within next 1.5 years. Then we have some grid system constraints to evacuate power. Naturally, we have to identify new interconnection ready zones and encourage distributed plants to be able to cater to that. Then we have limited capacity to manage variable RE. We naturally need to upgrade our capacity. We have to digitalize the way we are managing stuff. We need to include or add SCADA system and make it more modern, you know, data acquisition system and monitoring system basically. And then we have to centralize our RE forecasting. Right now, previously it was more of a decentralized one, but we have to bring it in the centralized forecasting system. And we have to also capitalize on the battery storage. Naturally, we are very anxiously awaiting, like many other people all around the world, for battery storage prices to crash the way the solar or wind prices have crashed. Once that happens, it is my conviction that every single electron will start coming from the RE projects as well, once we take care of the intermittency issues. And the last being the lack of coordination between federal and provincial entities. Definitely we are working on that, and we have to basically bring more harmony and synergies between the two. So this is the way we are trying to enhance our footprint on the RE side, and many other initiatives are being taken with the government. And we are also constantly apprising our Prime Minister on the development of this, and NAPRA is fully behind this. Wherever I go, whichever seminar I attend, I said, I have come from the private sector, and this is my goal to modernize this industry as much as possible. So whatever the most modern initiatives are, including inclusion of RE projects, that is definitely my forte, and I will do my very best to achieve this target. So with this, I close my talk, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very comprehensive overview of how you see the market and also encouraging how you look at the renewable energy side of this. And of course, we're still happy to hear those ambitious targets that the government of Pakistan has come up with. Now I see that there's one hand raised, Mr. Naeem Qureshi. Would you like to speak? Please, try to be brief, and you can speak now. Mr. Qureshi, Naeem Qureshi? I see there's the hand is raised, but well, Mr. Qureshi, I see your hand. There's another, oh, that was one more. Okay, then we try first Adil Khan.
Yeah.
Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I want to ask that since there is no manufacturing industry in Pakistan, like when we are talking about wind, then there is no blade manufacturing, no nacelle manufacturing, nothing in Pakistan, but still we are trying to compare our tariff with the European countries. So is it really practical that without having those infrastructure in Pakistan or the facilities, will it really hopeful to meet the tariff targets, and investors will be interested to meet with this tariff?
Is this question for me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, actually. One thing I did when I started exploring the possibilities of adding RE, I met few of our very renowned industrialists and also power company CEOs, and I gave them this tip that there's a huge potential coming around at least 10,000 megawatts on the wind side, if not more, and around 10,000 megawatts on solar, if not more. So why don't you guys, come up with some local manufacturing, because that is going to definitely give a lot of comparative advantage to you. Plus, that is going to substantially reduce the rates, because the biggest chunk in this the equipment is blades and all that. So, without revealing the definitely company's name, my discussion is still at very advanced stage, and they are working on it. But the only thing is they are asking for a guarantee that we are going to give them a guaranteed business for at least 1,000 or 2,000 megawatts of, at least. But I told them the legislators have already gone ahead with the comparative bidding. And in the presence of comparative bidding, the whole idea of comparative bidding is to bring the rates down. How can we give you an exclusive contract? So this is a chicken and egg problem. If you have a local manufacturing, naturally, whosoever you're going to support, they will have a much better chance to win the bid. But they are saying nobody is willing to accept these terms, because what if somebody brings comparatively cheaper source from, let's say, China or from somewhere else? So in few cases, somebody also brought this case to me that this doesn't sound to be a sound business case to try to develop this in Pakistan, the technology which is already being developed in some factories which are already, have, let's say, a lot of capacity available. So anyhow, again, this is not our call. We are going to go for the best rates and tariff, and that is only going to be revealed after this comparative bidding. But point taken, if we have these facilities locally, naturally there's a better chance of reducing the tariff.
Mr. Faruqi, if I may just a little bit related to that, because we've seen in some countries where there was a switch that you're now about to do from feed-in tariff to auctions, be it in India or be it in Germany, that not necessarily the prices went down, and where you have, like in Pakistan, a quite now well-developed structure of small, medium-sized companies who are investing with these 50 megawatt projects. Have you any kind of provisions that these players can still also invest with the new system? Because they were struggling. When you look at India, there were dozens of investors, and now you have 2 only at the end. No?
Mm-hmm. No, we have not put any inhibitions, any, not stopping anybody from investing. But in the first phase, as you might know, that all these 103 projects that I talked about, they have already got the LOIs from the respective provincial governments. So in the first go, we are giving a chance to these guys to participate in the bidding process, with a bigger chunk of auctions. But once this will be done, then going forwards, this is going to be probably 2 or 3,000 megawatts. Once this is done, all the rest of the bidding process will be done totally open. So, survival of the fittest thing will be there. Whosoever is going to be the best, most comparative, bringing the best technology at the most affordable prices, we absolutely don't have any choice, or we don't have any blockade for any particular investor. Everybody is most welcome.
Well, I see here there are 2 more hands raised. Let's try again, Mr. Naeem Qureshi. But Mr. Farooqi, you please let us know if you run out of time, no? So that
I still have about 10 minutes.
Okay, fine. Let's make use of this opportunity. Then, Mr. Naeem Qureshi, do you want to say something? Because your hand is still raised. No, I think that seems to be a misunderstanding. So there is one Sohaib Mansha.
Hello, good day, everyone, and good evening, Peter. Well, I have a question related to the fair share of coal in the pie chart that I saw, like 17%. As I see, the Pakistan has a vision of having clean and green Pakistan, and we are targeting for 2030 to have renewable energy share around 26%. So my question is, then why we are still putting coal as a 17% as a fair share in that target? Because in terms of climate change or carbon neutrality, it can hinder the goal of Pakistan being a carbon neutral country in the coming decades.
Yeah, very interesting question, Zohaib. Let me
Thank
assure you
you.
one thing, that in overall world's manufacturing, Pakistan has 3% contribution, and our emissions is only 0.5%. So we are doing much better as far as emissions is concerned, and 17% close, compared to many advanced countries in the world is nothing. To be very honest, there are some very advanced countries who have been using coal compared to Pakistan, much more figures, like 50-60%. So 17% is something which I believe we can comfortably live with, because we have to mind one more thing, that we have the biggest sources of coal available in Sindh, and we also need to somehow give patronage to our local indigenous coal industry. So unless and until they will have some customers available, we will not be able to do the mining. So it's a cautious decision on part of government to go by patronizing or supporting the local coal industry, because right now we have some plants on the imported coal, but eventually we are going to phase out all those plants and switch them over to indigenous coal. So this is again not NAPRA's decision, but government's decision. I fully support it, because 17% is something I believe which is a very reasonable target. Because again, in a bouquet of flowers, there are different types of flowers, making it beautiful. So coal is something which we have the huge resources. We should capitalize on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farooqi. And let me just say, of course, I mean, coming from an industrialized country, I shouldn't be the one who says Pakistan should be the first. But we see an interesting dynamic development now after China declared the climate neutrality target, which is of course late, but usually China does these things faster than when they announce. You have countries like Japan, South Korea following. Even Russia now declared that target. And of course, like my country, Germany, the coal phase out has been decided. I'm sure we will see even more technology development, which will make this transition easier for everyone. And I think the core of it is what we discussed before, how fast and how affordable can the transition to renewables be for all countries, so that all the countries also have the benefits. And I think manufacturing, as you rightly mentioned, is an important part of that. I don't see any other questions, so I sincerely do say thank you to you and appreciate the time that you spent here with us. Again, it's already now on YouTube in the live stream, but I think everybody who has an interest can later also watch your presentation like all the other speakers. So thank you again to, you're based in Islamabad, right?
Yep.
So greetings to Islamabad. A year ago we were there. Now, unfortunately, we cannot be there, but we hope that somewhere next year, maybe there's another opportunity.
As we say, inshallah. And thank you very much, Stefan and Peter and everybody who gave me a patient, hearing. And I'm always available whenever you guys need me. I'm just a phone call away. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. With this, I would like to announce our next speaker, Mr. Sijan Ashfaq, who is the managing director now of Sovitech, so representing a German developer, which has now started business activities in Pakistan, which I think is an important perspective. And I'm very happy to have you here, Sijan. But you have done a lot of work for WWA the last couple of years. So you've been the driver of our market research, of our policy analysis, with which we were able to give advice to the government of Pakistan, including NEPRA. Sijan, a great pleasure to have you here. And if you'd like to take over now and present your view on the market.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for having me. As you have just mentioned, my name is Sijan Ashfaq, and now I'm working with Sovitech, which is one of the largest renewable energy developers worldwide. So, Honorable Chairman NEPRA has, already provided a, detailed overview of the Pakistani wind market. I would be rather brief in my discussion today. So I'll be, talking about, Sovitech, that what we are and what we do. And then, instead of, discussing the status of wind power market, I'll be talking briefly about the distinct characteristics of the Pakistani wind market. And then, at the end, we will discuss that, how the market would evolve in the future and what needs to be done from the government side to foster wind power deployment in the country. So Sovitech is, as I've already said, one of the largest developers in the field of renewable energy. We have been successful in the market for 5 years now, and over 2,700 megawatts of wind and solar, projects developed by Sovitech are operational in around 8 countries worldwide. And, we have complete know-how of the entire value chain of the project development. And, last year, Sovitech was, a 25% share of Sovitech was acquired by Vestas, which is the leading OEM worldwide. And we really value that partnership. And, currently we have a very, strong presence in Latin American markets. We have our subsidiaries in around 14 countries and joint ventures in another couple of countries. And, now we have expanded to some Asian markets, like, for example, Vietnam, Thailand, and now also, we are looking keenly at the Pakistani wind market, which we believe holds quite a promising future. And, we have a very long-standing business relation with, some of the top tier, investors. These include strategic investors as well as some leading European utilities. And we also have a quite strong pipeline of around 30 gigawatt, which is under development and is at various stages of development. So now let's talk about the the Pakistani wind market. So, the current installed capacity is around 1240 megawatt, which is not that much. The first renewable energy policy was announced back in 2006, and it took Pakistan 6 to 7 years to install its first wind energy project back in 2003. But although the market is quite small, it has some distinct features which we don't find in other similar size markets in different parts of the world. The first one is that it was the domestic investors who spearheaded the market development in Pakistan. And when the market started taking shape, foreign investors joined in, and later when the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor under the framework of Belt and Road Initiative was announced, Chinese investors, they also joined the ride and started taking keen interest in the market. And another distinct feature is the presence of Western and Chinese OEMs. In such kind of such size markets, we don't find so much diverse OEMs. We in Pakistan have around 7 OEMs who have deployed their technology in the country. And in a 1,240 megawatt installed capacity, it's quite remarkable, and it underlines Pakistan's ability to benefit from the competition among different technology providers. The third distinct feature of this small size market is that local and international capital markets have demonstrated confidence in the Pakistani wind market by deploying around 305 billion US dollars in debt and equity investments. And the financiers include development finance institutions, conventional and Islamic banks, as well as equity providers. And moving towards the future, we see more and more financiers joining in. And then we also see local and international manufacturers joining joint ventures. A couple of tower manufacturing facilities were set up in Pakistan, and we see that such kind of facilities will grow in the future, keeping in view the targets that have been set by the government. And then there has been a local skilled workforce that has been part and parcel of this market development. And another remarkable feature of the market is the lowest tariff under cost plus regime. The projects that are under construction, the tariff for them, the average tariff for those projects is 4.5 US cents per kilowatt hour, which is quite remarkable. And the recently announced tariffs for cost plus projects is between 3.2 to 3.5 US cents. It is yet to be seen that if these projects will be developed or not, but under a stable regime of cost plus, these numbers are quite remarkable, and we cannot ignore them. But although there have been some very good fundamentals available in the market has not grown that rapidly. And we have only been able to add around 1,240 megawatts of wind power and around 610 megawatts of capacities under construction. Moving forward, we will see some of these distinct features being changed, or some may even get strengthened. As Chairman Nepra has mentioned in his presentation, that the government has set a target. And when we talk about wind energy, it is roughly around 8 to 8.5 gigawatt of installed capacity by the year 2030, which seems to be an ambitious target, keeping in view the Pakistani wind market, which at the moment is quite small, but still very dynamic. And, we will also be seeing more participation and new players joining in the future. We'll see bigger volumes, and we'll see foreign companies joining in, and we are one of the prime examples of that, because we see this market growing rapidly in the future, and that's why we have entered the market. And then the next thing is, future induction will be mainly through auctions, but we have to be very careful with that, as Stefan has just said, that they have not always resulted in increasing costs of wind power in some parts of the world. So therefore, if we plan to go ahead with that model, we need to keep in mind the local requirements and the understanding of a local market, so that a good model can be developed for that. And we also see industry expanding, but all this would basically depend upon a clear roadmap. The numbers are there as indicated in the indicative generation capacity expansion plan that has been prepared by the National Transmission and Dispatch Company and submitted to NEPRA, but the plan has not been approved yet. So we see when it is going to be approved, and then we will see how it gets implemented. Because numbers on the screen look quite good, but implementation must be ensured, because a project development process of wind power projects takes time, because from conception to the commercial operations you need at least 3 years. And if we are to induct 1500 megawatts of wind energy in 2023 to 2025, I mean I'm talking additions every year from 2023, the planning must start now, and the government must immediately engage the private sector immediately, because the federal government, which although is financially constrained, but it is fiscally not that much challenged compared to the provincial governments, but it often relies on donor agencies and development partners to conduct various studies for various technical studies for the induction of renewable energy. And since the government is already fiscally and financially constrained, it would be difficult to develop so many sites in different parts of the world by itself. Therefore, there is a strong need to engage the private sector as soon as possible, so that met masts can be installed, geotechnical and topographic studies can be conducted, different permits can be obtained, and so on and so forth. Government alone cannot do it in Pakistan. And another thing that must be taken care of is that there, as the chairman NEPRA has already mentioned in his presentation, there is a need to basically foster a kind of cooperation between the regional and subnational governments, because it has cost us dearly in the past, and lack of coordination among the federal as well as and the provincial governments have resulted towards a slow growth of wind energy market in Pakistan. And at the end, I would like to say that we need to think beyond cost and talk about the value that renewable energy or wind energy projects can create in Pakistan. Wind energy is together with solar is already the most cost competitive energy source, but now we need to think beyond that and look at the value that is created by deploying renewables. This value can be job creation, socioeconomic, and environmental benefits, and so on. So it is imperative for us to think beyond only the prism of cost while deploying renewables and wind energy projects. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Sishan. As usual, a very comprehensive information about a presentation about how you see the current market and the challenges and the opportunities. I think it's very important also that you highlighted at the end all these co-benefits of renewable energy in addition to the low price that renewables and wind power in particular are offering. Do we have any questions for our speaker? Well, let me in the meantime mention, I think this is also a good point of time now, that we are also working in Pakistan sometimes with the GIZ, the German Development Corporation, and they're currently conducting, as part of the Pakistan German Renewable Energy Forum, a survey amongst mainly German companies with a potential interest in the market in Pakistan. They would like to find out what are the needs and how you see the challenges. So they requested me to share the link to this survey here, which I've just done. So if we have any German companies here amongst our in the audience, this is the link which you may then fill out, and that will help for GIZ. They're also supporting. We've also done some projects together with them, the development in the market in Pakistan. So I see one more. Sohaib, Sishan, would you like to comment on the question that, or the comment that Sohaib Manja has written here? Correct me if I'm wrong, but as per NEPRA figures, Pakistan has a surplus of energy now. That's why they have given incentives to local industries without peak hour requirement. However, the usage of coal is the government of Pakistan's decision, with which I respect, and I hope they know much better than us about the local coal industry and its fair share by 2030 in terms of sustainability. Delighted to see what we are progressing, and so is Pakistan. There's more a statement, but Sishan, you'd like to agree, disagree?
I mean, I somehow agree with the chairman NEPRA that we have a kind of surplus capacity, but at the same time, the chairman was mentioning that we have among the lowest per capita energy consumption in the world. So these two basically points contradict each other, and although if we see the government saying that we are in a kind of surplus capacity, we see load shedding taking place in many parts of the world, many parts of Pakistan. I think the problem is not the capacity as such, but the real problem is the system constraints, which does not allow the generated capacity to be transmitted and distributed, which does not allow the generated capacity to be transmitted and distributed to different parts of the country. So,
thank you. And just one kind of maybe give a brief comment on that as well. As far as I'm aware, there's also a substantial share of the population which does not yet have access to the grid, which obviously is not yet covered by the existing capacities. Would you like to say 2 or 3 sentences on that?
Exactly around 27% of the total population of Pakistan does not have access to electricity at the moment, and in my opinion, renewable solution renewable energy technologies provide an optimal solution to reach out to those people that are not connected to the national grid, because extending the grid to those areas will be much more expensive than just having island or distributed projects in those parts of Pakistan. I see a very huge potential in that section as well.
Thank you so much, Sishan. Then I would like to go to our next final, as we say, last but certainly not least speaker, Waqas Qureshi. Waqas, you have a background in investment and financing. You've done a lot in investing in renewable energy, and your main role is being the CEO of Transatlantic Energy, a domestic developer of renewable energy, in particular wind power projects in Pakistan. I will look forward to hear from you about your perspective. Are you muted? No, you're not muted, but we cannot hear you. Unfortunately, I don't hear you.
Hi, Stefan,
Something.
can you hear me now?
Yes, not very loud, but.
Okay, could you hear me better?
If you speak louder, maybe.
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, if you just speak loud, please, I think then it should be okay.
Sorry about that. I think there is some issue with
But you must keep it, I think, here, otherwise it'd be difficult.
Is it okay? Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Just speak loudly, and I think then it should be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Stefan, for inviting me for the forum today. It's a pleasure being here, and it was good to see you both in Pakistan last year. We've come a long way in Pakistan since then, but I think there's a lot more to go. I think Pakistan is still, when we compare to our neighbors, we're still way behind in terms of the development in renewable energy. Although, I mean, so in Pakistan, the way the market moves is every second year or third year, we get suddenly 600 to 800 megawatts of projects in the system. And then there's a quietness for 2 years. And then another shift comes in, and another 200, 300, 400, 500 megawatts come in the system. So I think today Chairman Nepra has given some very thorough remarks in terms of how he's seeing Pakistan moving forward in terms of renewable energy and in terms of overall power sector for Pakistan. I think while we take some very good points, and we feel that as an investor in Pakistan and as a developer of wind power in Pakistan, I do appreciate the amount of work that the NEPRA is doing in Pakistan in terms of bringing out renewable energy for the future and for the current projects. However, I think our market is still ridden with many challenges that we see, and I think those challenges needs to be be focused by the government, and those challenges needs to be addressed. So because when any investor that comes into Pakistan, they want a certain profile of the environment where they are going to invest for the next 20 years. These are the long-term projects that we are investing in. So I want to highlight some of these points that I think are critical for any investor to look at Pakistan, and what we are seeing today in Pakistan. I want to relate it to that, and perhaps, unfortunately, the chairman is no more here, but hopefully if he sees the following YouTube videos later, then they will get our message as well in terms of what the investors are looking for, because I think while the current government is emphasis on the price to bring the renewable down, but the true price can only come when you have an environment where you have a lot of investors coming in and taking interest in the market. If you have a very few number of investors because the market is not conducive or deep enough, then the challenge is that the expectation of low pricing does not work, because the competition is not enough. Now, the competition is not just about investors coming in. The competition is also about the construction companies that are operating in the country, the OEMs that are operating in the country, and other sectors that are linked to the chain of renewable sector, wind power sector. Because, for example, today we only have 2 to 3 EPC contractors in Pakistan that are operating. And so if you have 20 developers and they're all going to the 2-3 EPC contractors, you have a bottleneck there. So we, as a country, we need to reduce these bottlenecks at various different levels. And I think that these are the things that needs to be looked at, because I think looking at the one perspective that, well, bring the price down is not enough. I think you also needs to enhance the environment so that you have more players in the market, more investors, you have more OEMs, you have more EPC contractors. Only then you will also see perhaps a local manufacturing happening as well. Right now, I think the chain is missing. The chain is not there totally. So I think, let me just highlight some of these key points that we feel as an investor we should look at in Pakistan and other countries as well. And then I'll highlight my points related to that. And hopefully this message will go across at various government agencies, the other international forums with investors, so that perhaps we can develop a better market for Pakistan for renewable energy and the wind energy in perspective. So let me share a slide here. Just give me a second. Okay, hold on. Okay, can you guys see the slide clearly,
Looks
Stefan?
perfect. Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. So just about myself, you already taken care of that. I just wanted to add that I also serve on the board of director of HESCO, which is one of the largest power distribution company in Pakistan, in Sindh particularly. And so I see the challenges that the government faces, because it is a government-owned entity, which I chair as one of the board of directors. And hence I do see various challenges at government level, that being a private sector person looking in the government sector entity, what sort of challenges there are. I mean, and there are numerous challenges. I mean, not just, there are no minor challenges, I must say. And going forward, one of the big challenge for the government is going to be when they're moving to a competitive open market, like CTCBM, where they should be a private buyers and they're private sellers. Then there has to be addressing of these challenges, like how the distribution companies are going to operate, what model they're going to work on. So these are going to be the challenges in the future, and that will also give comfort to the investors when they come in. So when you look at any market, and particularly we're going to talk about Pakistani market here in the context of Pakistan, the first top thing is political stability. And in Pakistan, just to give you a background, I think before this current government of Imran Khan came, the political stability was there, but renewable was totally closed down. So I think one of the biggest pluses that I have for this current government is the fact that they have actually opened the door for renewables, which was closed and shut earlier. So I think this government has come a long way in terms of promoting renewables. As the chairman also mentioned, we already have about 600 megawatt in construction right now. And I think I mean, yes, we do see off and on political slogging and all those things, but I think overall our political stability is very much there. There is a strong cohesion between the political government and the establishment and the army. So I think we are on a stable path. However, due to the COVID, the economic stability has not been as good as it should have been, because our current growth rate is a negative. But this has been a phenomenon all over the world, and I think in the near time this will probably subside. I think hopefully we all are waiting for that miracle vaccine to come around, and once that happens, then voila, it's going to be a strong growth rate everywhere. I wish that was the case, but I think it's going to be slow. But yes, I think we're going to get that political economic stability post the COVID era. Then one of the challenges that we face in Pakistan is time to the market. So like any other developing countries, we are actually, when you take a project to the market to construct, to develop and to construct, you're easily looking at about 4 to 6 years of time period to turn around, which means that any investor developer, when they're entering a market fresh, they're looking at least good 4 to 6 years for a developing in a country like Pakistan to bring a project to fruition. And in some cases, it could be slightly longer than that. But I mean, keep in mind, these things kind of put a lot of burden on the investor when they look at a market. They look at because of that, the expectation of return goes higher because they basically add the risk return profile of the country, and hence when we look at a market like Pakistan and the investors are expecting a higher return, your tariff is bound to go up. So I think bringing in a system which helps reduce the turnaround for the projects actually will also help in reduction of the return expected by the investors as well. And this is something that I think at times we don't look at, but this happens when your markets are stable. There's a consistency in the market. There's a continuous projects coming online. I mean, if not a lot, at least some must be coming online. So I think this is important for the Pakistani market. Then another factor that we have recently faced is taxes on the capital gains. So in this case, taxes, I would actually say taxes on the dividend. So previously, like for example, the previous regime, the taxes were about 7.5% on the investor dividend. Now it has come up by 15%. So again, you got slashed over there because those taxes are not accounted for in our tariff. So they are apart from the tariff. So hence, I think this is again where NEPRA should be looking at that. Why? Because it's not it doesn't fall in the tariff, but at the end of the day, it does hit investor on his return, and hence investor would want a high return because of that. Resource availability. Now, Pakistan has great wind resource. We all have seen the Sindh province have now close to 2,000 megawatts of wind projects in construction and in operation. And there's a resource for another good 10 to 15,000 megawatts. And however, if you look at other areas of Pakistan, like Balochistan, which unfortunately doesn't have a great interconnection with the rest of the country, but the resource potential is even higher over there. So, I mean, when you talk about capacity factors, so if let's say the Sindh province is currently giving you a 38% capacity factor, you're looking at 40% plus capacity factor in Balochistan area, which also will help again reduce your tariff as well at the same time. So I think the investors should not just start looking at the Sindh province, but should also look at the Balochistan provinces as well for the future projects in Pakistan. And I think this is again a big resource in Pakistan which has been untapped so far. I would want to say a few words about independent regulator, but I think the chairman has said quite thoroughly about what NEPRA does and what they do. Unfortunately, I think the independent regulator in Pakistan has also been under a lot of pressure in terms of reducing the tariff. But well, I think it's a good thing to reduce the tariff, but at what cost? You don't want to be pushing so hard that that at some point in time the investors start competing in Pakistan or stop putting the projects in Pakistan. So I think that NEPRA should be given that independence, that it should look at the market, it should try to balance between the investors, consumers, and the government, and hence came out with a stable environment which kind of gives a balanced approach for all the various stakeholders. I think that's where sometimes you feel there's a lack in terms of the NEPRA, because the NEPRA does come under pressure from the various government sides, and hence I think this is where a more independence perhaps should be exercised by NEPRA. market predictability is a very important thing for any investor to be investing in Pakistan. So in Pakistan, for example, we are now looking at a market where CTCBM, whereby like in European market, there should be independent buyers and independent sellers. I think investors right now have still want to see how that is going to work out in Pakistan, because we're already seeing a lot of PPAs under negotiation in the current government. Now that is already putting up a lot of pressure on the current projects. Then how are we going to see the future of these projects happening? Let's say if I'm going to put up our projects is now waiting for a tariff. So once that happens, we'll go into construction. But having said that, once we have a PPA signed, we don't want that PPA to be again renegotiated at a later stage during the life of the project. So I think these are the things which kind of decreases the investors' confidence on the market. And I think we have seen this in the past, back in 2000, when the HubCos of the world previously projects were renegotiated. And I think because of that, it left a bad taste in all of our investors' mouth. And I think we kind of we are facing a similar situation right now. And I think what the government and the regulators should give confidence to the investor is that when they sign an agreement today with the government, this is there for long term. This is there for the next 20 years. Not that halfway through the term of those agreements, there should be a renegotiation of those agreements, because I think none of the investors in any country would prefer that. So I think market predictability and regulatory environment are key things that the investor right now in Pakistan are looking at. I think that there is your distribution companies in Pakistan are currently having a losses of 28%. Now, the government is under extreme pressure that the amount of circular debt that they have to pay is humongous. And all the pressure is being put up on the developers and the existing projects. I think that should not be that is not the correct way of approaching this. There should also be a substantial pressure on the distribution companies to make them more efficient, so the losses that the government is facing can be further reduced. I think that requires a relook of the distribution companies, how these distribution companies are operating, how to reduce losses. I think this is going to be the next phase that the government should look at very keenly. So if the government wants that more investors could come and operate and invest in Pakistani market, the tariffs should also be remain low, then it's a multiple facet situation that needs to be fixed. You need to fix the DISCO so they can improve in efficiencies. Once those efficiencies are improved, naturally the power that the generation companies are distributing will be more economical for the country across the board. So I think these are some of the points that I wanted to highlight. I think if the last two, market predictability and regulatory environment, are strengthened by then I think there's no doubt that there will be more investors in Pakistan and there will be more market stability in Pakistan, hence reducing the tariff that the government is keenly awaiting to be reduced. Thank you. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you so much, Prakash. I think these were very, very important insights into how you see the situation. And particularly, I mean, I can just agree with you from international experience that if you want to have an efficient system, it's sometimes not as simple as it looks at the first place. Putting pressure on the wrong people may not help to make the system more efficient. Yeah, I see that other people agree with you as well. Very true, well spoken, Waqas. One comment here. Do we have any questions, comments from our audience? You can also raise your hand if you like. If not, then I think that concludes our webinar, which I think was an excellent summary of where Pakistan stands at this point of time. And I'm very happy that we had you all on board. In particular, also, as I said, you can watch again if you want to see those presentations later on YouTube. Just go to our YouTube channel and let me just share the YouTube link where you find the live stream now. And then, of course, after the live stream is over, you find the uncut version, but we will also publish the individual speeches in 1 or 2 days. So thank you from my side. Thank you to our speakers, our distinguished speakers, the First Secretary of the Embassy of Pakistan to Berlin, the Chairman of NEPRA, to Zishan Ashfaq from Sovitech, and now Waqas Qureshi from Transatlantic Energy. Thank you to our partners, as I indicated initially, to Hamburg Wind Energy Fair, to our media partner Energy Update, and to Profec Ventus. Let me say that, of course, as we do such activities without charging for it, we're very happy if you would like to join us and make it possible that we can do such work. We invite everyone to become a member of WWEA, and we've also said there's also a set of options of sponsoring these webinars, which will certainly continue in the new year as the pandemic seems not to stop by the end of the year. So thank you from my side, and I would like to hand over back to Peter for the final words and to close the meeting. Peter, if you just unmute yourself.
I've just managed to do it, I think, haven't I?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much to the speakers. I think it's been an excellent summary of the issues and the opportunities which exist in Pakistan for the development. I would hope that we can continue to have these webinars which bring people up to date as to what's happening. I look forward to the day when Pakistan will feature well in this publication, which is the REN 21 publication of the Global Status Report in relation to renewable energy. And it's amazing how much information is available there, and the opportunity in the various countries is outlined. But one of the places I'm looking forward to reading in relation in the renewables, and ASFAC has been an excellent developer of the issues and the answers to many aspects of the development of renewable energy in Pakistan. And I would take the opportunity to say a special thank you very much for Zishan, and good fortune in your new position. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Jean Pitlar, who has been behind the organisation of this. And thank you again to all the speakers and those who joined us as audience. Good finish to the whole of the event. Thank you, Stefan. Back to you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a nice evening, wherever you are, and see you soon and healthy again.